Welcome to a place where shadows whisper and silence holds its breath. This is 10 Terrifying Tales for a Sleepless Night. Have you ever felt like you were being watched, but no one was there? Heard a creak in the hallway when everyone else was asleep? Maybe it wasn't your imagination. Tonight we journey deep into the unknown, a descent into 10 stories pulled from the darkest corners of human experience. Real encounters, real fear, and mysteries that still remain unsolved. These are the stories people are too afraid to tell in the daylight, but in the quiet hours of the night, they demand to be heard. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and whatever you do, don't look behind you. Because once the stories begin, something else might start listening too. The night is alive with secrets in a forgotten corner of Brazil's Rio Grande do Norte, where the ocean whispers tales of the lost. It's February 2012, and 15-year-old Lucas sits alone in a crumbling beach house, its walls scarred by salt and time. It was the third day of February 2012 in the Brazilian state of Rio Grande do Norte, and this is something I'll never forget. The air reeks of seaweed and decay, the dunes outside littered with rusted cans and broken bottles. So my sisters, my mother, and me went to have some fun at the beach pretty far from our home. Our mother had rented the house of a friend for a few days. Lucas's family is scattered tonight, his mother at a club, his sisters off on their own adventures, leaving him in this creaky two-story relic. The place was kind of creepy, I guess, and it didn't help that the moon that day was full. The moonlight spills through cracked windows, casting jagged shadows that seem to writhe on the peeling walls. Lucas slumps on a sagging couch, the TV's static buzzing like a swarm of insects. He tries to laugh off his sister's joke about sharks lurking in the surf, but the words stick twisting into something darker. Whispers of the town's past creep into his mind. A fisherman who vanished on these shores, his boat found adrift, smeared with strange claw-like marks. The house groans, and a faint scratching begins, not from the wind but from somewhere, above like nails dragging across wood. Lucas's pulse quickens. He peers into the hallway where the darkness feels alive, pulsing with intent. The scratching grows louder, rhythmic, as if something is testing the house's defenses. He grabs a kitchen knife, its blade glinting under the moon's gaze, and steps toward the stairs, each creak underfoot amplifying his dread. At the attic door, the scratching stops, replaced by a low hum that vibrates in his chest. He reaches for the knob, but a cold gust slams the door shut, and the house falls silent. Too silent. The silence is a trap, heavy and suffocating. I was young and a stupid kid, I guess you could say, who was scared to death by creepy nights and also full of energy. Lucas can't stay here, not with that hum lingering in his bones. My thoughts at the time were pretty stupid, but I was going to look for my mom. He snatches a flashlight, its beam flickering like a dying star, and climbs over the splintered fence, the sand swallowing his footsteps. I jumped over the fence of our house by climbing over it. The town unfolds like a labyrinth, its streets lined with crumbling facades and flickering lamps. I walked a little bit around the town, but then I realized that I was lost. The air grows colder, the moonlight sharper, as if guiding him somewhere he shouldn't go. I was utterly overwhelmed by the same modern buildings, and I had no idea as to where I was. His flashlight catches glimpses of movement, shapes that slink between buildings, too quick to be human. A guttural moan echoes from an alley, freezing Lucas in place. He whispers his mother's name, a plea for safety, but the town answers with silence. The streets blur into a dirt path, winding toward a beach Lucas doesn't recognize. The ocean's roar is deafening, its waves clawing at the shore like desperate hands. Eventually, though, the road mixed with this path of dirt. It sort of looked like the path in front of the house that we were staying at. A faint glow pulses among jagged rocks, drawing him closer despite every instinct screaming to run. I found a beach. Not the beach where I went with my sisters, but a different one. The sand is icy, the air thick with the stench of rotting fish. This beach had these rocks leading up to outside the water. You know, those sort of spiked rocks that normally sink ships. Lucas's flashlight trembles as he nears the glow, his breath catching at the sight of ancient carvings etched into the rocks, symbols that seem to writhe under the light. I kept seeing something moving beside it from the corner of my vision. A shadow detaches from the boulder, towering and wrong. This thing, it seemed to be about the size of a fully grown man. But it stood straight. It had legs and feet, but whatever it was, it definitely wasn't human. Its left arm is a writhing mass of centipede legs, skittering against the sand with a sickening clatter. The biggest proof was the left arm that I saw. This left arm was exactly like that. The thing extended to the ground, and it moved like it had a life of its own. Its body is a mockery of flesh, glistening like oil, with an egg-shaped head that tilts, eyeless yet piercing. The whole body of this thing was weird, and not just the centipede arm. The air crackles, the carvings glowing brighter, syncing with the creature's movements. Lucas's mind screams. This is the Sombras das Dunas, a shadow from old sailors. Tales said to devour those who stray too far. The creature steps forward, its arm lashing out, splitting the air with a hiss. I don't know what the man did after he saw me, because after seeing him in the clear moonlight with the ocean backdrop, my child self was absolutely terrified, and I just straight up bolted away. Lucas runs, the sand dragging at his feet, the skittering sound chasing him. The glow fades, but the creature's presence lingers, a weight on his soul. His flashlight dies, plunging him into darkness, but he keeps running, guided by blind panic. The path stretches endlessly, the town's lights nowhere in sight. A memory surfaces, his grandmother's warning. Never trust the shadows on the dunes, they hunger for the lost. The skittering grows closer, a relentless rhythm, until headlights pierce the night. One of my sisters, thank the Lord, found me. His sister's car screeches to a stop, her voice a mix of fury and relief. Lucas collapses into the seat, his eyes darting to the rearview mirror, expecting the creature's eyeless stare. The path behind is empty, but the hum returns, faint, burrowing into his mind. Back at the house, Lucas's mother is a storm of anger. I got scolded real bad by my mother, who was angry as anything with me for running away. She thought that I was kidnapped or something like that and was about to call authorities. He tries to explain, his voice shaking as he describes the creature. I did tell this story to my sisters. Obviously, they found it to be unbelievable. Their laughter stings, but Lucas clings to the truth. To this day, I really do believe that that man thing was real. I actually saw it. I wasn't hallucinating. The memory, it's still very vivid in my mind, and again, I have no idea what it was, but it was real. Days later, he digs through old books, finding sketches of the carvings, runes tied to a ritual to bind the Sombras das Dunas. The house feels different now. Its shadows deeper, its creaks deliberate. At night, the scratching returns, not from the attic, but from under his bed, soft and patient. Lucas keeps the knife close, planning to return to the beach, not as a scared kid, but as someone ready to face the shadow. The carvings haunt his dreams, and one question burns. Why did it let him live? Stay tuned. This isn't the end. Something's still out there, waiting in the dunes. Imagine this, a sun-soaked summer day in the rugged mountains of southeastern Spain, where the air hums with the scent of pine and wild thyme. I'm 14, hiking with my mom and younger brother Diego, on a family adventure we'd been planning for months. We're not superstitious. No ghost stories or campfire tales for us. We're just here to soak in the beauty of nature, to escape the chaos of Madrid for a week. The trail we're on is remote, recommended by a grizzled local in the village of Rio Par Viejo. It's not on any map, barely a path at all. Just a winding thread of dirt snaking through towering peaks and dense forests. We love it. No phone service, no distractions, just the three of us laughing and talking as we trek deeper into the wilderness. But as the sun climbs higher, something shifts. The air feels heavier, like it's pressing down on my chest. I brush it off. Maybe it's just the heat or the altitude. We stumble upon a hidden gem, a crystal-clear lake with turquoise-green water, surrounded by lush vegetation. Diego and I can't resist. We kick off our shoes and dive in, splashing and laughing, while Mom sets up a picnic on the shore. It's perfect. Until it's not. We're halfway through lunch when a sound rips through the valley. A high-pitched scream, sharp and unnatural, echoing off the mountains. My fork freezes mid-air. All three of us lock eyes, startled, hearts pounding. Was that human? An animal. It came from the other side of the lake where the trees grow thick and the shadows seem to swallow the light. We try to rationalize it. Maybe someone's hurt, maybe they need help. Mom, ever the protector, insists we check it out. I'm not so sure, but Diego's already grabbing his walking stick, and I can't let him go alone. As we circle the lake, the vibe changes. The birds stop singing. The wind dies. My skin prickles not from the heat, but from something deeper, something primal. We're not alone. I can feel eyes on us, watching from the bushes, but when I turn, there's nothing. Just endless green and the glint of the lake. Then it hits me. A smell, faint at first, like rotting fruit left too long in the sun. It grows stronger with every step, twisting my stomach. Diego wrinkles his nose. "What is that?" he whispers. Mom doesn't answer, but her grip on her stick tightens. We're almost to the bushy area now, and my heart's hammering so loud I can barely hear my own thoughts. Something's wrong here. Something's very wrong. We push forward, stepping cautiously into the bushy area across the lake. The smell grows unbearable. A sickly mix of decay and something metallic, like blood left to fester. My stomach churns, but Mom's determined, her eyes scanning the undergrowth. Diego clutches, his stick like a lifeline, and I'm right behind him, every nerve screaming to turn back. The joy from our picnic is gone, replaced by a creeping dread that feels alive, like it's wrapping around my heart. The trees here are gnarled, their branches twisting into shapes that look too deliberate, too wrong. Sunlight barely filters through, casting jagged shadows that seem to move when I'm not looking. I try to shake it off, telling myself it's just my imagination. But then I hear it, a low rustle, not like wind, but like something heavy dragging through the leaves. Diego freezes. "Did you hear that?" he whispers. I nod, my mouth too dry to speak. Mom signals for us to keep moving, but her face is pale, her usual confidence fraying at the edges. We're all feeling it now, this ominous weight, like we're trespassing on something ancient and unforgiving. Suddenly, the bushes part, revealing a small clearing. My breath catches. In the center lies the corpse of a deer, its limbs torn off, its head half-eaten. The carcass looks fresh, blood still glistening, yet the smell is impossibly foul, like it's been rotting for weeks. It doesn't make sense. Diego gags and I grab his arm to steady him. Mom's eyes dart around, searching for tracks, but the ground is pristine. No paw prints, no claw marks, nothing. Wolves, bears. Spain has both, but this feels different. Unnatural. Then a twig snaps behind us. We spin around, sticks raised, but the clearing is empty. My heart's pounding so hard I can feel it in my throat. We need to go, I whisper, my voice barely audible. But before we can move, another sound cuts through the silence. Not a scream this time, but a low, guttural hum, like a chant from deep within the earth. It's coming from everywhere and nowhere, vibrating in my bones. Mom grabs us both, her grip bruising. Now, she hisses. As we back away, I catch a glimpse of something in the trees. A flicker of movement. Too tall to be an animal, too fleeting to be human. Its shape is wrong, elongated with limbs that bend at impossible angles. My mind screams run, but my legs feel like they're stuck in tar. What is this place? And what's watching us? We stumble back toward the lake, the hum still pulsing in my ears, like a warning carved into the air. My eyes keep darting to the trees, half expecting that thing to lunge out. Diego's shaking, his stick dragging in the dirt, and Mom's pulling us along, her face set in a grim mask. The valley feels alive, its mountains looming, like silent judges. Every step feels like a betrayal, like we're stealing something from this place just by being here. The lake glitters ahead, but its beauty now feels like a trap, a lure to keep us in this cursed valley. We don't speak. We can't. The air's too thick, charged with something I can't name. As we reach the lake's edge, I risk a glance back. The bushes are still, but the shadows seem deeper, like they're hiding something just out of sight. My instincts scream to leave, to never look back, but Mom stops, her eyes fixed on the water. "Look," she whispers, pointing. There, rippling beneath the surface, is a shape, human-like but distorted, its edges blurring into the turquoise depths. It's gone in a blink, but we all saw it. Diego's voice cracks. "What was that?" Before we can process it, the hum returns, louder, more insistent. It's not just a sound now. It's a presence pressing against my skull, whispering words. I can't understand. My vision blurs, and for a split second I see her. A woman in tattered robes, her eyes hollow, her mouth stretched in a silent scream. She's there and gone, but the image burns into my mind. Mom grabs us, snapping me out of it. We're leaving. Now! We scramble up the trail, the path steeper than I remember. The hum fades, but the dread doesn't. Halfway up the mountain, another scream pierces the air, just like the first, but closer. We don't stop to investigate this time. We run, branches snapping underfoot, until the valley's out of sight. My lungs burn, but I don't care. I just want out. When we finally reach the village, the sun's dipping low, casting long shadows that make me jump. We collapse at a rustic bar in the town square, our clothes streaked with dirt. The locals, weathered and quiet, watch us with knowing eyes. Mom, still shaken, asks about the trail. An elder leans in, his voice low. Centuries ago, a woman accused of witchcraft was burned in that valley. Her curse lingers, they say, haunting anyone who dares enter. The air grows heavy as he speaks, and I feel it again. That unseen gaze following us even now. The elder's words hang over us like a storm cloud. A witch, burned alive, her spirit trapped in that valley. I want to laugh it off. Ghosts aren't real, right? But the memory of that scream, that thing in the trees, gnaws at me. Diego's staring at his untouched soda, his hands trembling. Mom's trying to act calm, but her eyes keep flicking to the door, like she expects something to follow us. The bar's cozy glow feels like a lie. A thin shield against whatever we left behind. The elder Don Mateo leans closer, his voice a gravelly whisper. He tells us the trail we took wasn't the one the locals recommended. We'd taken a wrong turn, stumbling into a place they avoid, a valley shunned since the Spanish Inquisition. The witch, he says, wasn't just any woman. She was a healer, betrayed by her own village, her screams echoing as the flames consumed her. Her final curse bound her to the land, twisting it into something dark. She sees you now, he warns. You've walked her ground. My skin crawls. I think of the hum, the distorted figure in the lake, the deer torn apart like an offering. Was that her? Or something worse? Don Mateo slides a small charm across the table, a braided cord with a carved stone. Keep this close, he says. She doesn't forgive. I take it, my fingers brushing the cold stone, and feel a jolt. Like static but deeper, like it's alive. Back at our rented cottage, the night feels too quiet. I lie awake, the charm clutched in my hand, listening for that hum. Diego's snoring softly, but Mom's pacing downstairs. Around midnight, I hear a faint whisper, not from outside but inside my head, speaking in a language I don't know. It's her voice, I'm sure of it, low and mournful, then sharp with anger. I bolt upright, my heart racing. The room's empty, but the air's thick, like I'm underwater. The charm grows warm in my palm, pulsing faintly. I creep to the window, peering into the darkness. The mountains loom in the distance, their peaks sharp against the starry sky. For a moment I swear I see her, a silhouette on the ridge, her robes billowing, her eyes locked on me. I blink and she's gone. But the whisper lingers, promising secrets I'm not sure I want to know. What does she want? Revenge? Or something more? And why us? Sleep never comes. The whisper in my head fades, but the weight of it lingers like a shadow stitched to my soul. I clutch the charm tighter, its warmth both comforting and unsettling. Dawn breaks, painting the mountains in soft gold, but the beauty feels hollow. We pack up and leave the village, eager to put the valley behind us. The road back to Madrid is long, and we ride in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. Diego keeps glancing out the window like he's searching for something. Mom's knuckles are white on the steering wheel. We're not superstitious, but what happened in that valley was real, undeniable. Back home, I try to bury it. School starts, friends fill my days with chatter, but the valley's grip doesn't loosen. At night, I dream of her, the witch, her hollow eyes burning, her voice chanting words that make my skin crawl. The charm sits on my nightstand, glowing faintly in the dark, or maybe that's just my imagination. But then things start happening. My phone glitches, playing static that sounds like whispers. Shadows flicker in my room, too quick to catch. Once I wake to find my window open, the air smelling faintly of rot. I research the valley online, digging through obscure forums. I find stories, hikers gone missing, locals reporting screams, animals found torn apart. One post mentions a curse. Anyone who enters the witch's domain is marked, bound to her until she claims them. My blood runs cold. Is that why I feel her even now, thousands of miles away? I tell Mom, but she brushes it off, though her eyes betray her fear. Diego's different. He believes me. He's been drawing the valley in his sketchbook obsessively, like he's trying to purge it. One night it escalates. I'm alone studying when the charm vibrates hard enough to rattle the table. The lights flicker, and that hum returns, filling the room. Her voice is clear now, not in my head, but here, speaking my name. I grab the charm and run to Diego's room, where he's staring at his latest drawing, a perfect sketch of her, her face twisted in rage. "She's coming," he whispers. The air grows heavy, the smell of decay choking us. The charm burns in my hand, and I know we didn't escape. She followed us, and she's not done. What does she want? Our lives? Our souls? Or is she trapped? Begging for release? One thing's certain, this isn't over. The valley's curse is ours now, and I'm not sure we can outrun it. Are you brave enough to face what's waiting in those mountains? It's 2014, and you're a third-shift worker in rural Wisconsin, clocking out after a grueling night at a factory 20 miles from nowhere. The world is asleep, the roads are empty, and the only sound is the hum of your old pickup truck slicing through the crisp twilight air. Your name is Ethan, a 32-year-old guy who spent years on the graveyard shift, navigating these lonely roads. You're not one for ghost stories. Hell, you're a skeptic through and through, the kind who laughs off tales of Bigfoot or UFOs. You've heard the rumors, sure. Late-night drivers swearing they saw something in the woods, something that wasn't human. You always rolled your eyes. People see what they want to see, you'd say. But tonight something's different. It clings to the edges of your mind like frost on a windshield. The sky is a bruised shade of indigo, and the trees lining the road seem to lean in, whispering secrets you're not sure you want to hear. You've been at this job for years, and you know the routine: punch out, drive home, crash until noon. But the factory's out in the sticks, surrounded by nothing but fields and forest. The kind of place where your headlights are the only thing keeping the darkness at bay. Tonight you're bone-tired, your eyes heavy from 10 hours on the assembly line. But you've got one last stretch of country road before you hit the city limits. It's a desolate strip, the kind where the darkness feels alive, where every shadow could be a deer, or something worse. You shake off the thought, crank up the radio, some fuzzy classic rock station playing Lynyrd Skynyrd, and focus on the yellow lines ahead. But deep down you can't ignore the prickle on the back of your neck, that primal instinct telling you you're not as alone as you think. What's out there watching from the trees? And why does it feel like it's been waiting for you? A few weeks back you overheard a coworker, old Joe, talking about this road. He's been at the factory since the 80s, seen it all. Never drive County Road 17 after midnight, he said, half joking, half serious. Something's out there. Seen it myself once back in '92. Like a man, but not. You laughed it off, called him a crazy old coot. But now, with the night pressing in, Joe's words echo in your head. You push them away, tell yourself it's just fatigue playing tricks. Still, you can't help but wonder, what did he see? And why does this road feel like it's holding its breath? The road stretches out like a black ribbon, twisting through dense woods that seem to swallow the faint glow of your headlights. You're halfway home now, the city light's still a distant promise. The radio crackles, cutting in and out, and you curse under your breath as you fiddle with the dial. Static. More static. Then, for a split second, you swear you hear a voice. A low, guttural whisper that doesn't belong to any DJ. It's not English, not any language you know. Just a sound, like gravel grinding underfoot, slithering through the speakers. You freeze, your hand hovering over the knob. Just the wind, you mutter. But your heart's pounding now, and the cab of your truck feels smaller, like the walls are closing in. You glance at the rearview mirror, expecting nothing but darkness. But there's something. A flicker. A shape too quick to pin down. Your eyes dart to the side mirror. Nothing. You're alone, right? You have to be. But the air feels heavy, charged, like the moment before a lightning strike. The trees blur past, their gnarled branches clawing at the sky, and you can't shake the feeling that something's pacing you, just out of sight. You press the gas, a little harder, the engine groaning in protest. The speedometer creeps up, 50, 55, 60. But the unease doesn't fade. Your mind scrambles for an explanation. Maybe it's exhaustion. Maybe it's the stories getting to you. You've heard them all, hunters talking about strange tracks, farmers whispering about missing livestock, even kids swearing they saw the winged man near the old quarry. You've always dismissed it as small-town nonsense, the kind of thing people make up to scare each other. But now, with the night closing in, those stories don't seem so far-fetched. You grip the wheel tighter, your knuckles aching. The road curves sharply and you slow down, your headlights sweeping across the trees. Then it happens. A chill slithers down your spine, sharp and sudden, like a blade. You don't know why, but you look up at the treetops, where the branches silhouette against the twilight sky. That's when you see it. A shape, perched high, motionless, like it's been there all along, watching. Your breath catches. It's not a bird, not an animal. It's humanoid, but wrong. Its limbs too long, its posture too still. Its head is tilted, like it's studying you, and though you can't see its eyes, you feel them, heavy and unyielding. You blink, and it's gone. Or was it ever there? Your mind races, grasping for logic, but your gut screams one thing: you're not imagining this. You want to stop, to turn around, but something tells you that's exactly what it wants. Your hands grip the steering wheel, knuckles white, as you try to focus on the road. "Get a grip, Ethan," you whisper. But your voice sounds hollow, swallowed by the oppressive silence of the cab. You tell yourself it was a trick of the light, a shadow cast by the trees. But your heart's hammering, and every instinct screams to keep moving, to get to the city where streetlights and people can chase away whatever's haunting you. You flick on the high beams, the light cutting through the darkness like a blade. Nothing, just road and trees. You almost laugh. Almost. Then it's there. As you glance up at the top of one of the trees, your blood turns to ice. What you thought was the top of the tree. A gnarled branch, maybe, moves. It's not a branch, it's a thing. A humanoid figure crouched in the treetops, its silhouette stark against the twilight sky. Its limbs are unnaturally long, bent at angles that defy biology, and it's staring right at you. You can't see its face, but you feel its gaze, heavy and malevolent, boring into your soul. Its body is gaunt, almost skeletal, wrapped in a darkness that seems to pulse, like it's not entirely solid. You slam on the brake, tires screeching as the truck lurches to a stop. Your breath comes in shallow gasps and you fumble for the flashlight in the glove compartment, your hands shaking so badly you nearly drop it. You aim the beam at the tree, praying it's just an animal, a trick of your exhausted mind. But the light catches something. Wings. It looked like a humanoid thing with wings, massive and leathery, unfolding from its back like a nightmare unfurling. They shimmer faintly, like oil on water, and you hear a sound, a low, resonant hum like the air itself is vibrating. Before you can process it, it flew up into the air at lightning speed and disappeared, the wings snapping shut as it rockets into the sky. Gone, like it was never there. You sit there, engine idling, flashlight trembling in your hand. The silence is deafening, broken only by your ragged breathing. You scan the trees, the sky, the road, nothing. But you know what you saw. It wasn't human, it wasn't natural, and it saw you back. Your mind reels, trying to piece it together. Was it a bird? A bat? No, nothing moves like that, nothing looks like that. You think of old Joe's story, of the winged man legends, and a cold dread settles in your chest. Whatever it wasn't just passing through, it was hunting. You don't know how long you sit there, frozen in the driver's seat, the flashlight's beam cutting uselessly into the empty night. Your mind is a storm of questions, each one sharper than the last. Was it real? Are you losing? You're a skeptic, damn it. You don't believe in monsters or ghosts. But what you saw wasn't a hallucination. It was there, perched like a predator, watching you like prey. You force yourself to move, shifting the truck into gear, but your eyes keep darting to the mirrors, half expecting that thing to swoop down from the sky. The hum of its wings lingers in your ears, a sound you can't unhear. The city lights finally appear, a faint glow on the horizon, and you floor it, desperate for the safety of civilization. You pull into the parking lot of your workplace, the only familiar place nearby, and kill the engine. You remember stopping your car outside of your workplace and just sitting there, replaying the moment over and over. You wondered if you were crazy or if you imagined it. But the memory is too vivid, too real. The wings, the speed, the way it looked at you. You sit there for what feels like hours, the flashlight still clutched in your hand, until the first rays of dawn creep over the horizon. You don't tell your coworkers. You don't tell anyone. You decided not to tell anybody ever except until now because it's been about 10 years, and it's bothered you this whole time. You've tried to bury it, to chalk it up to exhaustion or a trick of the light, but it's like a splinter in your mind. Every time you drive that road, you feel it. The weight of unseen eyes, the echo of wings in the dark. You've even started taking a longer route home, adding 30 minutes to your commute just to avoid County Road 17. But the fear follows you, a shadow that won't let go. Years later, in 2023, you're at a bar with some buddies, and the conversation turns to local legends. Someone mentions County Road 17 and your stomach drops. They talk about other drivers, other late-night travelers who've seen a shadow in the trees, a figure that moves too fast to be human. One guy, a trucker, swears he saw it last month. A winged thing hovering over the road, its eyes glowing, like embers. Some call it a demon. Others say it's something older, tied to the land itself, a guardian or a curse left behind by the native tribes who once roamed these woods. You don't know what to believe, but you know one thing: it's still out there, and it remembers you. You start digging, scouring online forums, old newspaper clippings, anything that might explain what you saw. You find stories, too many to dismiss. A hunter in '98 who found strange claw marks on his truck. A camper in 2005 who heard wings beating overhead, followed by silence. A teenager in 2019 who posted on Reddit about a Batman staring at her from the trees. The details vary, but the core is the same. Something's haunting these roads, and it's been here for decades, maybe centuries. You even track down old Joe, now retired, and he tells you more. It's not just one, he says, his voice. To me, there's a nest, Ethan, and once they see you, they don't forget. Now, every night, you lie awake wondering if it'll come back. You've started keeping a knife under your pillow, a habit you can't explain. You check the skies when you step outside, half expecting to see those wings blotting out the stars. And sometimes, in the dead of night, you swear you hear that hum again. Faint but unmistakable, like it's calling you back to the road. So, tell me, what would you do if you saw it? Would you keep driving? Or would you stop and face the darkness? Comment below with your theories, your stories, your fears. Have you seen something on County Road 17? Or is it just me chasing shadows in the night? Let's figure out what's haunting Wisconsin's back roads, because I'm still searching for answers and I'm not sure I'll ever find them. The night air in Humboldt, Arizona, was thick with secrets, the kind that clung to your skin like damp fog. It was the summer of 2003, and 3 restless souls, myself, Danny, and Kate, were itching for something to break the monotony of our small-town lives. We'd heard the stories about the old smelter in Humboldt, a crumbling relic from the late 1800s, where molten metal once forged dreams and disasters. Locals whispered of a tragedy, a fire that claimed dozens of workers, their screams swallowed by the roar of the furnaces. Some said their spirits never left, trapped in the rusted bones of the smelter. Others swore a young woman, a worker's daughter, met a grisly end there. Her name lost to time, but her presence etched into the town's folklore. We didn't believe in ghosts, not really, but boredom has a way of making you chase shadows. So, with a 6-pack of cheap beer and a beat-up radio blaring classic rock, we parked Danny's truck near the smelter's looming silhouette. The structure was a hulking beast, its smokestack piercing the starless sky like a dagger. The air felt wrong, too still, too heavy, as if the night itself was holding its breath. Kate shivered, pulling her jacket tighter, and I caught a glint of unease in Danny's eyes, though he'd never admit it. As we stepped closer, the ground crunched underfoot, littered with broken glass and rusted nails. The smelter's windows gaped like empty eye sockets, and I swore I saw something flicker inside. A trick of the moonlight, maybe. "This place gives me the creeps," Kate muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. Danny laughed it off, tossing an empty can at the smokestack. "Creeps? It's just an old pile of bricks. Bet we could climb it." But before we could debate, the air shifted. A cold gust swept through, carrying a faint guttural moan that seemed to rise from the earth itself. We froze, our laughter dying in our throats. "You hear that?" I asked, my heart kicking against my ribs. Danny nodded, his bravado fading. Kate's eyes darted to the smelter, wide and unblinking. Then, from deep within the structure, a low hum began to build, like the drone of a distant swarm. It grew louder, sharper, until it erupted into chaos. Thousands of bats erupted from the smelter's windows, a black tidal wave of screeching, flapping wings that blotted out the sky. We ducked, covering our heads as the swarm surged over us, their claws grazing our hair, their cries piercing our eardrums. The stench of guano and decay choked the air, and for a moment it felt like the smelter itself was screaming. When the blast of the bats vanished into the night, we stood panting, our nerves frayed to threads. "What the hell was that?" Danny gasped, his voice shaky. Kate pointed to the smelter, her hand trembling. "We were loud for like 20 minutes. Why'd they freak out now?" Her question hung unanswered, the silence heavier than before. Then it came, a loud thud, like something heavy crashing to the ground nearby. The earth seemed to shudder beneath us, and a second thud followed, closer this time. My blood ran cold. It wasn't just a fall. It sounded like something, or someone, had landed. The smelter loomed before us, its rusted walls seeming to pulse with a life of their own. The dust waved away, my eyes locked on the darkness beyond the smelter's windows. "Guys, we need to get out of here," Kate whispered, her voice trembling. But before we could move, another thud shook the ground. This one so close it rattled my teeth. Dust swirled up from the earth, curling into the air like ghostly fingers. Then came the screech, not like the bats, but something primal, guttural, almost human. It clawed at my insides, a sound that didn't belong in this world. Danny grabbed Kate's arm. "What the fuck was that?" he hissed, his tough guy act crumbling. I couldn't answer. My eyes were glued to the smelter, where the dust was settling, revealing something impossible. Footprints, deep, uneven, and too large to be human, marched from the smelter's base toward us. They stopped abruptly, as if whatever made them had vanished into the night. Kate's breath hitched. "Those weren't there before," she said. her voice barely audible. I knelt to touch one of the prints, my fingers grazing the cold-packed earth. A sickly sweet stench hit me like rotting flesh mixed with something metallic. My stomach churned. "This isn't right," I muttered, standing up. "This place, it's wrong." As if in response, the smelter groaned, a low, mechanical wail that seemed to come from its core. The air grew colder, the temperature plummeting in seconds. My breath fogged in front of me and Kate's teeth began to chatter. Danny's eyes darted around, his bravado replaced by raw fear. "We're not alone," he said, his voice cracking. Then, we saw it. A figure tall and gaunt standing just beyond the smelter's shadow. It wasn't human, not entirely. Its limbs were too long, its movements jerky, like a marionette on frayed strings. Its head tilted, and though I couldn't see its face, I felt its gaze, heavy and malevolent, boring into us. Kate screamed, stumbling backward. Danny yanked her to her feet and we bolted toward the truck, our footsteps pounding the dirt. But the smelter wasn't done with us. As we ran, the ground trembled again, and another screech tore through the night, this time from above. I risked a glance upward and froze. Something was perched on the smokestack, its silhouette stark against the moonless sky. It was humanoid but wrong. Its arms bent at unnatural angles, its head twitching like a predator sizing up its prey. Its eyes, if it had any, glinted with a sickly yellow glow. "Go, go, go!" Danny shouted, shoving me toward the truck. We piled in, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the keys. The engine roared to life, and I slammed the gas, the tires spitting gravel as we peeled out. In the rearview mirror, I saw it. The figure from the smokestack was gone, but the smelter's windows glowed faintly, a sickly red light pulsing like a heartbeat. We didn't speak until we hit the main road, the smelter shrinking in the distance. Kate was sobbing, her hands clenched into fists. Danny stared out the window, his face pale. "If someone told me this, I'd never believe it," he said finally, his voice hollow. I didn't respond. My mind was replaying the footprints, the screech, the figure, and that glow. God, that glow. Back in town, we tried to make sense of it. Kate dug up old newspaper clippings about the smelter's fire, the one that killed those workers. But there was something else. A grainy photo of a young woman, a worker's daughter, who disappeared the night of the fire. Her name was Eliza, and the article hinted at foul play, though no body was ever found. The locals still whispered about her, saying her spirit haunted the smelter, seeking justice or revenge. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak of my house, every shadow in my room felt like a warning. I kept my curtains drawn, my door locked, but it didn't matter. I could still feel it, that wrongness from the smelter, like a stain on my soul. A week later, Kate found a mark on her wrist, a faint burn in the shape of a handprint. She swore it wasn't there before that night. Danny started having nightmares, waking up screaming about yellow eyes. And me? I can't shake the feeling that something followed us home. Last night I drove past the smelter again alone. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to prove it was just a bad memory. But as I slowed down, I saw it. A flicker of red light in the smelter's windows, and a single, fresh footprint in the dirt. It was pointing toward my house. The days after our night at the smelter felt like living in a fog. Humboldt, once a sleepy town where nothing ever happened, now seemed to hum with an undercurrent of dread. I couldn't walk past a dark window without checking for yellow eyes. Kate stopped going out after sunset, her wrist burn growing darker each day, like a brand sinking deeper into her skin. Danny, the guy who'd laugh off a tornado, started chain smoking, his hands trembling every time someone mentioned the smelter. We didn't talk about it, not really. It was like saying its name might summon it back, but it wasn't just us. The town felt different. Old-timers at the diner started swapping stories they hadn't told in years about workers who'd seen shadows in the smelter's furnaces, shadows that moved against the flames. About Eliza, who wasn't just a victim but a sacrifice, her death tied to a ritual gone wrong. One guy, a grizzled mechanic named Earl, claimed he'd seen her once standing by the smelter's gate, her dress scorched black, her eyes hollow. "She's still there," he said, his voice low, "and she ain't alone." I tried to dismiss it as small-town gossip, but the evidence was piling up. Kate's burn wasn't healing. Danny's nightmares were getting worse. He described a figure in his dreams, the same one we'd seen on the smokestack whispering his name. And me? I started finding things out of place. My keys on the kitchen counter when I'd left them, in my room. A smudge of dirt on my floor, too big to be mine, shaped like one of those footprints. I told myself it was stress, paranoia, anything but the truth. But deep down, I knew. The smelter had marked us. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know if it was real or if we'd just scared ourselves stupid. I grabbed a flashlight, a crowbar, and drove back to the smelter. The air was colder than it should have been for summer, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones. The smelter stood silent, its windows dark, but I felt it watching me. I stepped closer, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, and that's when I saw them. More footprints, fresh and deep, circling the smelter like a predator pacing. Its cage. I followed them, my heart hammering, until they led to a rusted door half buried in weeds. It was ajar, just enough to slip through. Inside, the air was thick with the same stench from that night, rotting flesh and metal. My flashlight caught glints of old machinery, their surfaces etched with scratches that looked too deliberate, like claw marks. Then I saw it, carved into a beam. Eliza, 1897. Below it, 3 fresh scratches, still dripping with something dark and viscous. I stumbled back, my crowbar slipping from my hand. That's when the smelter woke up. A low hum started, the same one we'd heard before the bats. It grew into a wail, then a screech, so loud it felt like my skull would split. The red glow returned, pulsing faster, brighter, until the whole smelter seemed to breathe. I ran, my legs burning, but the ground shook with every step like something was chasing me. I didn't look back. I couldn't. When I reached the truck, I locked the doors and floored it, the smelter's glow fading. In my mirrors, but it wasn't over. Back home, I found a new mark on my door. A handprint burned into the wood, identical to Kate's. Danny called me the next day, his voice barely a whisper. He'd found a photo in his room, one he didn't take. It showed the 3 of us at the smelter that night, our faces pale, our eyes wide. Behind us in the shadows was a figure, tall, gaunt, with yellow eyes. We've tried to move on. Kate left Humboldt, but she says the burn still aches, like it's alive. Danny's in therapy, but the nightmares don't stop. And me, I don't sleep much anymore. Every night I check my windows, my doors, my floors. Last week I found another footprint outside my house, bigger than the last, pointing toward my bedroom. I don't know what it wants, but I know it's not Eliza. She's just a ghost. Whatever this is, it's older, hungrier, and it's not done with us. The smelter wasn't just a ruin. It was a wound in the earth, bleeding secrets Humboldt's elders refused to name. After that night, I became obsessed, digging through dusty library archives and cornering old-timers at the bar. Most clammed up when I mentioned the smelter, their eyes darting like they were afraid it could hear. But one woman, Miss Clara, a retired librarian with a face like cracked leather, finally talked. "That place ain't natural," she said, her voice a rasp. "It was built on bad land, cursed, some say. The fire in '97 wasn't an accident. Something wanted blood. She told me about the workers, men who'd come home raving about voices in the furnaces, voices that knew their sins. About Eliza, who wasn't just a victim but a sacrifice, her death tied to a ritual gone wrong. They thought they could control it, Clara said, her eyes distant. But you can't chain a devil. Her words stuck with me, burrowing deep. The smelter wasn't haunted by ghosts. It was a prison for something older, something that fed on fear. The town started to notice things too. Dogs howled at nothing. Kids drew pictures of a tall man with yellow eyes. A hunter found bones near the smelter, human but twisted, like they'd been melted and reshaped. The sheriff called it a bear attack, but we knew better. The smelter was waking up, and we'd rung its dinner bell. Kate's burns started to spread, faint lines creeping up her arm like veins. She sent me photos, her texts frantic. It's moving, it hurts. Danny's nightmares bled into his days. He'd zone out, muttering about a voice calling him back to the smelter. One night he showed up at my door, his eyes bloodshot, a knife in his hand. "It's in my head," he said, his voice breaking. "It wants me to finish what Eliza started." I locked him in my guest room, but by morning he was gone. His truck was found near the smelter, empty except for a single footprint on the dashboard. I tried to leave humbled, to put miles between me and that cursed place. But the smelter followed. In my new apartment, 3 states away, I'd wake to the smell of rot, the air heavy with that wrongness. My mirrors fogged up with handprints I didn't make. My dreams were filled with the smelter's red glow, the screech echoing in my skull. I'd see Eliza sometimes, her face half burned, her lips moving but no sound coming out. And always, behind her, that figure, tall, gaunt, its yellow eyes promising I'd never escape. Then came the package. No return address, just a plain brown box on my doorstep. Inside was a piece of rusted metal, etched with the same scratches I'd seen in the smelter. Tucked beside it was a photo, not the one Danny found, but a new one. It showed me, standing outside my apartment, unaware of the camera. Behind me, in the shadows, was the figure, its hand outstretched inches from my shoulder. Scrawled on the back in jagged handwriting, "You're mine." I burned the photo, melted the metal, but it didn't matter. The smelter's reach was endless. Last night, I woke to a thud outside my window, the same sound from that night. I grabbed my flashlight, my heart pounding, and shone it into the dark. There in the grass was a footprint, fresh, deep, and pointing straight at my door. But this time there was something new. A faint red glow pulsing in the distance like the smelter had found me. I don't know how much time I have left. Kate stopped answering my calls. Danny's missing, maybe dead. And me. I feel it. Watching, waiting. The smelter isn't just a place, it's alive and it's hungry. If you're listening, don't go looking for it. Don't say its name. Because once it knows you, it never forgets. And somewhere, in the dark, it's already watching. Imagine this, you're 16, living in the quiet suburbs of North Las Vegas where the desert heat clings to everything, even at night. The world feels safe, predictable, until it isn't. My name's Sarah, and back in 2012 something happened in my family's 2-story home that shattered my sense of security. It wasn't just a single moment. It was a chain of events that crept into my life like a shadow you can't shake. This is my story, and trust me, you'll want to hear it to the end, because what I saw, what I felt, still haunts me. Our house was typical. Cozy, cluttered with family photos and filled with the chaos of me, my 2 younger brothers, my mom, and my stepdad. But there was always something off. A chill in the air, even in the Nevada heat. A feeling that someone was watching, especially at night. I brushed it off as teenage paranoia, until the night it all changed. It was late, maybe 2 a.m., and I'd snuck downstairs for a midnight snack. The kind of thing you do when you're young and restless. My brother, Jake, 13 and always up for trouble, joined me. We were sprawled on the couch, flipping through TV channels, laughing at dumb infomercials. When I realized I needed to hit the bathroom, the half-bath was tucked down a hallway, near the garage. A narrow space that always felt too quiet. As I headed there, the house seemed to hold its breath. I didn't think much of it, until I heard my stepdad's voice from the stairs. "Jake, get to bed," he said, his tone sharp. Then confusion crept into his voice. "Who's in the bathroom?" I called back. "It's me, Sarah." But the silence that followed was heavy, unnatural. Jake later told me our stepdad took a step back, shocked, his face pale as if he'd seen a ghost. He swore he'd just seen me upstairs, standing outside my room, staring at him before walking back inside. My blood ran cold. I hadn't been upstairs. I'd been with Jake the whole time. The idea that something or someone had mimicked me standing in my doorway sent a shiver down my spine. But that was just the beginning. This wasn't a one-off. The house had been playing tricks for weeks, and I was about to learn it wasn't done with us yet. Back in that hallway, my heart was pounding. The idea that something had pretended to be me upstairs was insane. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the house itself was alive, watching us. Tried to laugh it off, telling Jake he was just tired, but his wide eyes told me he felt it too. That night we both slept with the lights on, too spooked to face the dark. The next morning I noticed something else. We'd been finding handprints outside my baby brother's room, smudged on the window like someone had pressed their palms against the glass. They were too small to be an adult's, too large for a child's, and they appeared overnight. No explanation. My mom thought it was neighborhood kids pulling a prank, but we lived on a quiet street, and the prints were inside the window frame, unreachable without a ladder. I started checking the windows obsessively, my stomach twisting every time I saw those eerie smudges. As weeks passed, the house grew bolder. Doors would creak open when no one was near. Footsteps echoed in the hallway at 3 a.m., too heavy to be my brother's. One night I woke up to a faint tapping, like fingers drumming on my bedroom wall. I froze, straining to listen, and then silence. But the air felt thick, like something was standing just out of sight. I started keeping a journal, jotting down every weird moment, hoping to make sense of it. The more I wrote, the more I realized this wasn't random. Something was targeting us, and it was getting closer. The scariest part. My baby brother, barely 2, started acting strange. He'd stare at corners of his room, babbling to someone I couldn't see. One night I caught him giggling, pointing at the ceiling, saying, "Friend, friend." My skin crawled. There was nothing there, or was there? I started sleeping in his room, a baseball bat by my side, just in case. The house felt like a predator, waiting for us to let our guard down. And then, one night, it showed itself. Not fully, not yet, but enough to make me question everything I thought I knew about reality. By now, I was a nervous wreck. Every creak, every shadow made me jump. I stopped sleeping in my room, camping out in my baby brother's nursery instead. His crib was pushed against the wall, the one with those creepy handprints we couldn't explain. I'd lie there, clutching my bat, listening for anything out of place. My family was starting to crack under the pressure too. Mom was jumpy, snapping at us for no reason. My stepdad kept checking the locks, muttering about damn kids messing with us. But deep down, we all knew it wasn't kids. One night, I was dozing off in the nursery when I felt it. A shift in the air, like the room had gotten heavier. My eyes snapped open and there it was. A shadow in the corner, darker than the dark. It wasn't just a shape. It had weight, presence. My heart slammed against my ribs as I stared, too scared to move. The shadow didn't budge, but I swear it was watching me, its edges pulsing like a heartbeat. Then, my brother whimpered in his crib, and the shadow moved. Not fast, but deliberate, sliding along the wall toward him. I don't know how I found the courage, but I grabbed my bat and shouted, "Get out!" The shadow froze, then dissolved into nothing, like smoke. My brother was crying now, and I scooped him up, running to my parents' room. We told them everything, shaking, tears streaming down my face. They didn't believe us at first, dismissing it as a nightmare, but the fear in my eyes must have convinced them to check the nursery. They found new handprints, fresh, pressed into the window like a taunt. That was the breaking point. We started researching the house's history, digging into old records. What we found chilled me to the bone. A family had lived here decades ago, and their young daughter had died in a tragic accident. Was she the one leaving those prints? Was she trying to reach us or warn us? The more pars we learned, the more questions we had. And the house? It wasn't done with us. Something bigger was coming, something that would make that shadow seem like child's play. We were desperate for answers. My stepdad, usually the skeptic, started sleeping with a flashlight by his bed. Mom burned sage in every room, hoping to cleanse whatever was haunting us. I kept my journal close, scribbling every detail. The handprints, the shadow, the way my brother's giggles turned to terrified cries. But the more we tried to fight it, the stronger it got. The house wasn't just haunted, it was angry. One evening, I found an old photo in the attic, tucked inside a dusty box. It showed a family from the 1950s, standing in front of our house. A little girl, maybe 7, stared straight at the camera, her eyes hollow. I couldn't shake the feeling she was the key. I showed it to my family, and Jake gasped. She looked like the friend my baby brother kept pointing to. We tracked down a local historian, an old woman who knew every secret in North Las Vegas. She confirmed the story. The girl, Emily, had died in a fire in our house. Her parents never recovered, and rumors swirled that her spirit lingered, trapped in grief. That night, I decided to confront whatever was in the nursery. Armed with a flashlight and my journal, I sat by my brother's crib, whispering, "Emily, if you're here, talk to me." The room grew cold, the air thick with static. Then, I heard it. A soft sob coming from the corner where the shadow had been. My flashlight flickered, and in its dying beam, I saw her. A small figure, translucent, her dress charred at the edges. She didn't move, just stared, her eyes pleading. I wanted to run, but something held me there. "What do you want?" I whispered. The sobbing stopped, and the room went silent. Too silent. Suddenly the window rattled and new handprints appeared, smearing across the glass like someone was clawing to get in, or out. I screamed, dropping the flashlight. My parents rushed, but Emily was gone. The handprints were still there, undeniable proof we weren't alone. We knew then, Emily wasn't the threat. Something else was, something darker using her pain to torment us. The question was, how do we stop it? We couldn't ignore it anymore. The house was a battleground, and we were losing. My family was fraying. Jake refused to sleep alone. My baby brother's friend visits were constant, and I was haunted by Emily's face. We called a local medium, someone the historian recommended. She arrived at dusk, her eyes scanning the house like, she could see through its walls. "There's pain here," she said, "and something feeding on it." The medium sat up in the nursery, candles flickering as she chanted softly. I stood by the door, clutching my journal, my heart in my throat. The air grew heavy, oppressive, like a storm was brewing inside. Then the candles went out and a low growl filled the room. Not human, not animal, but something ancient. The medium's voice didn't waver. "Emily, come forward," she commanded. A faint glow appeared, Emily's small form materializing. But behind her something else stirred. A mass of darkness, writhing like liquid shadow. The medium shouted, "It's not her! It's using her!" The darkness lunged, knocking over the crib. I grabbed my brother and ran, the medium's chants echoing behind us. My parents were screaming, but I couldn't look back. We huddled in the living room, the house shaking like it was alive. Then, silence. The medium emerged, pale but calm. "Emily's free," she said, "but the other, it's weakened, not gone." We moved out the next week, leaving behind everything we couldn't carry. The handprints never reappeared, but I still see them in my nightmares. Years later, I learned the house was demolished, too many incidents for new tenants. No one could explain the handprints, or the shadow that mimicked me. But I know the truth. Something evil lived there, feeding on Emily's pain and our fear. I don't go back to North Las Vegas. I don't need to. That house taught me there are things in this world we'll never understand, and some doors are better left closed, so what do you think? Have you ever felt a presence you couldn't explain? Stick around, because the next story might hit even closer to home. The smell of pine and damp earth clings to the air as Ethan, now 25, stands at the edge of a forest in upstate New York, the same woods he roamed as a kid. It's Easter weekend 2025, and a family dinner has stirred a memory long buried. A tale of a red shack hidden deep in the trees, a place whispered about in childhood games. Growing up, there was this little red shack in the woods behind my friend's house about a mile down from my childhood home. It was really small, like the size of a garden tool shed or an outhouse maybe. Ethan's heart races as he stares into the forest, the shadows twisting under a cloud-choked sky. The neighborhood kids, they would tell my brother and I that there was a strange hermit who lived there, who ate snakes and skunks, and we thought that they were just being kids telling scary stories. As a boy, Ethan laughed off the stories, but now, holding a faded Polaroid of him and his friend Mia near those woods, the laughter feels hollow. Something about that shack never sat right. At 10 years old, Ethan and Mia were fearless explorers, chasing rumors of the hermit through the forest's maze of gnarled oaks and thorny underbrush. The shack was a legend, a dare whispered at sleepovers. "Find the red door and you'll see him, chewing on bones under the moonlight." One summer afternoon, with the sun blazing and cicadas screaming, they set out, armed with a flashlight and a pocket knife. The forest felt alive, its branches clawing at their clothes, the air heavy with the musk of decay. Ethan's younger brother, Noah, trailed behind, clutching a stick like a sword. They pushed deeper, the path narrowing, until Mia spotted it. Flash of crimson through the trees. The neighborhood kids, they would tell my brother and I that there was a strange hermit who lived there. The shack stood in a clearing, its red paint peeling like burnt skin, windows boarded with splintered planks. The door hung ajar, swaying in a breeze that didn't exist. Ethan's stomach twisted, but Mia's grin pushed him forward. "We're here," she whispered, her voice trembling with excitement. The clearing was unnaturally quiet, the cicadas' hum gone, replaced by a low rhythmic thud, like a heartbeat pulsing from the shack. We thought that they were just being kids telling scary stories. Ethan stepped closer, his flashlight catching glints of something slick on the ground. Dark, oily stains that smelled of iron and rot. The door creaked wider, revealing a darkness that seemed to swallow light. Noah whimpered, gripping Ethan's sleeve. "It's just a story," Ethan lied, but his voice cracked. Then a shadow moved inside. A tall, hunched figure, its outline flickering like a flame. Ethan froze, his flashlight trembling, as the figure turned, its face obscured but its eyes glinting like polished obsidian. A rasping breath filled the air, followed by a sound like bones grinding together. Mia grabbed Ethan's arm, her nails digging into his skin, and they bolted, Noah stumbling behind. The forest erupted with noise, branches snapping, leaves rustling, as if the trees themselves were chasing them. They didn't stop until they reached Mia's backyard, gasping, the shack's heartbeat still echoing in their ears. Years passed, and the memory faded, buried under school, jobs, and life. But at that Easter dinner, Ethan's story about the shack sparked something. Just recently at Easter dinner, I was telling my parents about the hermit guy story that my boyfriend and I went to look for this shack again and couldn't find it. I thought that maybe I'd imagined seeing it as a kid, but apparently it was real. And my parents, they knew this guy. His parents exchanged a glance, their faces pale. He used to be well known and respected in the community, and was very successful at one point until something happened. My dad said that one time while my dad was slowly driving around the potholes on our road, this man ran out of the woods and jumped into the bed of his truck and ducked down. Ethan's father described a man unhinged, eyes wild, muttering about keeping her safe. My mom said that when she worked at the grocery store many years ago, he would come in and buy raw hamburger and a bag of sugar, sit outside of the store, mix it together and eat it. The man's name was Elias Crow, a once wealthy local who crumbled after his mother's death. What had happened was this guy's mother died. Apparently he found her and couldn't accept her death, so he had kept her body in the house for a few months. It deeply affected his mental health seeing her body decay like that, and he went from very successful to living in a shack in the woods. Ethan's blood ran cold. Elias wasn't just a myth, but the story didn't end there. His parents' voices dropped as they shared more. Elias's shack was rumored to be a shrine, its walls scrawled with symbols no one could read. Locals swore they heard wails from the forest at night. Not human, but not animal either. Ethan's mother mentioned a detail that chilled him. Elias claimed his mother's spirit lingered, demanding he feed the hollow. Ethan returned to the woods the next day, alone, driven by a need to prove the shack was gone. The forest was different now, denser, the air thick, with a metallic tang. He followed the old path, his flashlight cutting through the gloom, until he found the clearing. The shack was there, but wrong. Its red paint fresh, the door sealed shut. A faint glow seeped from the cracks, and the heartbeat thud returned, louder, vibrating in his chest. Ethan approached, his hand trembling as he touched the door. It was warm, pulsing like flesh. A whisper slithered from inside. Not Elias's voice, but something older, feminine, chanting in a tongue Ethan didn't know. The oily stains were back, pooling around the shack, and now he saw them for what they were. Blood, fresh and glistening. The door rattled, as if something massive pressed against it. Ethan's flashlight caught a glimpse through a crack, a figure, not Elias, but a woman. Her face decayed, eyes hollow, staring right at him. The chanting grew frantic, the heartbeat deafening. Ethan stumbled back, the ground shaking as the door splintered. He ran, the wails chasing him, not from the shack but from the trees, the sky, the earth itself. He didn't stop until he reached his car. The forest screams fading, but the glow burned into his vision. Back home, Ethan's parents dismissed his story, blaming his imagination. I do hope that this hermit guy ended up in heaven. I heard that he was a really nice guy before his life went downhill. But Ethan couldn't shake the truth. The shack wasn't just Elias's refuge. It was a prison, holding something far worse than a broken man. He found an old journal in the library, written by a priest who visited the town in the 1950s. It described a hollow in the woods, a place where grief could summon things not of this world. The symbols, the blood, the wails, they were part of a ritual, one Elias might have completed. Ethan keeps the Polaroid, a reminder of that summer. But now he notices something new in the background, a red smudge, too sharp to be a trick of light. At night he hears the heartbeat, faint but growing, not from the woods but from his own chest. He's planning to return, not to explore but to destroy whatever lives in that shack. The question haunts him. What did Elias feed, and is it still hungry? Stay tuned, because this forest hides more than stories, and it's not done with Ethan yet. Picture this. It's a sweltering summer evening in a small-town diner just off the interstate in Ohio. The neon sign buzzes faintly, casting a pinkish glow over the parking lot. I'm Sophia, 19, working the counter at Joey's Burgers, a fast food joint where the fries are greasy, the sodas are bottomless, and the customers usually don't linger. I'm used to the chaos. Families grabbing quick meals, truckers nursing coffees, but tonight feels different. The air's thick, not just with the heat, but with something heavier, something I can't pin down. My shift's dragging, and the clock's stuck at 7 p.m., mocking me. I'm wiping down the counter when I notice them. Two men sitting at a corner table, their eyes locked on me. They're not eating, just sipping sodas they've refilled too many times to count. One's older, maybe 40, with a scruffy beard and a baseball cap pulled low. The other's younger, wiry, his fingers drumming on the table like he's itching for something. They're staring non-stop, turning their heads to follow my every move. It's not subtle, not a glance you can brush off. It's predatory, like they're studying me, waiting for something. My coworker Jess nudges me. Soph, those guys are creepy. They've been here forever. I nod, my stomach twisting, but I try to focus on the next order. The diner's not packed, just a few regulars and a mom with her kid in a booth. But those two, they're different. They barely talk to each other, almost silent, their focus entirely on me. The older one's got a laptop open, but he's not typing, just staring over the screen. The younger one's on his phone, but his eyes flick up every few seconds, pinning me in place. I force a smile, hoping it's my imagination, but the hairs on my neck stand up. Jess whispers, "They're giving me the chills. You okay?" I shrug, but I'm not okay. Not at all. An hour passes, then two. They're still there, refilling their drinks, staying way longer than anyone should. Most customers are in and out in 45 minutes, but these guys are camped out, their presence like a weight pressing on my chest. I catch the older one smirking, just a flash, and it sends a shiver down my spine. What do they want? Why me? The diner's closing soon, and I'm dreading the moment I have to walk to my car alone. Something's coming. I can feel it, like a storm brewing just out of sight. The diner's fluorescent lights flicker, making the shadows dance across the checkered floor. I'm trying to stay busy, refilling ketchup bottles, sweeping crumbs. But those men's eyes are like lasers, burning into me no matter where I go. I sneak a glance at them, hoping they've lost interest. But no, they're still there, unblinking, their faces blank except for that eerie focus. The older one's cap casts a shadow over his eyes, but I can feel his gaze heavy and wrong. The younger one stopped drumming his fingers. Now he's leaning forward, like a predator sizing up its prey. Jess notices too. "Sophia, they haven't Eaten anything, she whispers, her voice tight. Just those damn sodas, what's their deal? I shake my head, my throat dry. I work at a restaurant, a fast food place where people don't linger for hours, but these guys are glued to that. Table. I try to distract myself, chatting with a regular about the weather, but my words feel hollow. Every time I move, I sense them tracking me, their heads tilting in sync. It's unnerving, like I'm a specimen under a microscope. I check the clock, 9 p.m. Closing's in an hour, and my shift ends then. My car's parked out back in the dimly lit lot by the dumpster. Normally I don't think twice about it, but tonight the thought of walking out there alone makes my palms sweat. I catch Jess's eye and jerk my head toward the men. Can you cover the register? I need a sec. She nods, and I slip into the break room, my heart pounding. I splash water on my face, staring at my reflection in the grimy mirror. Get it together, Sophia, I mutter. But the feeling won't shake. This isn't just paranoia, it's instinct. When I return, the younger man's standing at the counter holding an empty cup. Can I get some ice cream? He asks, his voice flat. I force a smile, scooping vanilla into a cup, but his eyes never leave me. He asks where I'm from, saying I look foreign, maybe Spanish. I mumble something about being born here, my hands shaking as I hand him the cup. He doesn't eat it, just keeps staring, then walks back to his table. Jess grabs my arm. That was weird, right? I nod, but weird doesn't cover it. It's sinister. As closing nears, the diner empties out, leaving just us and them. The older man finally closes his laptop, but they don't leave. They just sit, watching, waiting. My shift's almost over, and the parking lot's calling my name. But so the clock hits 10 p.m., and Joey's Burgers is officially closed. Jess and I start the routine, wiping tables, locking the register. But my eyes keep darting to those two men, still sitting there, their sodas untouched now. They haven't moved, haven't spoken, just kept that relentless stare fixed on me. The diner's empty, the last customer gone, and the silence is deafening, broken only by the hum of the fridge. Jess locks the front door, but it doesn't feel like enough, not with them still here. Guys, we're closing, Jess calls, her voice braver than I feel. The older man nods, almost mockingly, and they stand, moving slowly, like they're savoring the moment. They've been here for hours, way past normal, and their silence feels like a weapon. The younger one slings his phone into his pocket, his eyes never leaving me as they head for the door. I hold my breath, praying they'll just leave, but the older one pauses, turning to look at me one last time. His smirk is gone, replaced by something colder, something that makes my blood freeze. They step outside, and Jess locks the door behind them. Good riddance, she mutters, but I'm not relieved. I peek through the window, and there they are, standing in the parking lot. Not moving, just waiting. Jess, they're still out there, I whisper, my voice shaking. She joins me, her face paling. What the hell? Call Mike. Mike's our manager, but he's off tonight, and I'm not sure what he could do anyway. My shift's over, and I need to get home, but the thought of crossing that lot with them out there feels like walking into a trap. I grab my bag, my keys clutched like a weapon. I'm gonna make a run for it, I tell Jess, trying to sound confident. She grabs my arm. Wait for me. We'll go together. But her shift doesn't end for another half hour, and I can't wait. I need to get out now, before whatever they're planning happens. I take a deep breath, unlock the back door, and step into the night. The air's thick with the smell of grease and asphalt, and the lot's darker than I remember. The streetlights flickering like they're about to die. I scan the shadows, my car 100 feet away. No sign of them, but I feel it. Their eyes, somewhere watching. My sneakers crunch on gravel, each step echoing in my ears. Then I hear it. A soft scuff like boots on pavement coming from behind me. My heart leaps into my throat. They're here, and they're not letting me go. I freeze, the scuff of boots echoing in the empty lot. My car's so close, its outline, barely visible under the flickering streetlight, but it might as well be a mile away. The sound comes again, closer now, deliberate, like someone stalking me. I don't dare look back. My keys dig into my palm and I bolt, sprinting across the gravel, my breath ragged. I'm panicking, my heart pounding as I reach my car, fumbling with the lock. The door clicks open and I dive inside, slamming it shut. My hands shake as I jam the key into the ignition. But before I can turn it, I see him, the younger man, standing just outside the driver's side window. He's right there, his face inches from the glass, staring with that same predatory intensity. No words, no movement. Just those eyes boring into me like he's peeling back my skin. I scream, a raw guttural sound, and hit the lock button again, even though it's already secure. He doesn't flinch, doesn't blink, just stands there, his breath fogging the glass. The older man's nowhere in sight, and that's worse. Where is he? What are they planning? I turn the key, the engine roaring to life, and peel out of the lot, tires screeching. The road's dark, the interstate stretching ahead like a black ribbon. My rearview mirror's empty, but I'm not fooled. I'm scared, convinced they're following me, even if I can't see them. My phone's in my bag and I fumble for it, dialing Jess. "Sophia, you okay?" She answers, her voice tense. "They're after me," I gasp. "The younger one. He was at my car." Jess curses, promising to call the cops, but I'm already miles away, the diner a fading speck. I keep checking my mirrors, expecting headlights, but the road stays empty. Too empty. Then I see it. A flash of light in the distance, a car pulling onto the interstate behind me. My stomach drops. Is it them? I speed up, pushing 80, my old Honda rattling. The car keeps pace, its headlights growing brighter. I take an exit at random, weaving through suburban streets, hoping to lose them. The car follows, relentless, its shape indistinct but menacing. My mind races. Did they know my shift? My name? How long have they been watching me? I pull into a gas station. The neon light's a small comfort. The car slows but doesn't stop, cruising past like a shark circling its prey. I park by the pump, my hands trembling as I call 911. "Someone's following me," I tell the dispatcher, my voice barely steady. But as I speak, I realize the car's gone. For now. But this isn't over. I know it in my bones. The gas stations. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting harsh shadows across my dashboard. I'm still on the phone with the 911 dispatcher, my voice shaky as I describe the men, the car, the chase. "Stay where you are," she says. "An officer's on the way." I nod even though she can't see me, my eyes glued to the road. The car's gone, but I feel them out there, waiting, watching. I'm nervous, my gut telling me this isn't over, that they had bad intentions. The lot's empty, the clerk inside barely glancing up from his phone. I'm alone and it's suffocating. A cop arrives 15 minutes later, a burly guy named Officer Daniels. I spill everything. The staring, the ice cream guy, the chase. He takes notes, his face unreadable. "Any license plate?" he asks. I shake, my head cursing myself for not looking. He promises to patrol the area, but his tone says he's seen this before. Paranoid kids, late-night scares. "Go straight home," he advises. "Lock your doors." I nod, but as he drives off, I feel exposed, like the night itself is conspiring against me. I drive home, taking a winding route to be sure no one's following. My apartment's a small, second-floor unit in a quiet complex. I lock the door, check the windows, and collapse on the couch, my keys still clutched in my hand. The adrenaline's fading, leaving a gnawing fear in its place. I'm worried this isn't the end, that they'll come back. Who were they? Random creeps? Or something? Worse? I think of the older man's smirk, the younger one's unblinking stare. They knew my shift, my car. This wasn't random. I call Jess, who's freaking out. The cops came by the diner, she says. They found nothing. No cameras caught. Those guys. My heart sinks. No evidence, no proof, just my word against the dark. I try to sleep, but every creak of the building makes me jump. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Nice car, Sophia. My blood runs cold. How do they know my name? I block the number, but the message burns into my mind. The next day I call in sick, too rattled to face the diner. Jess tells me the men haven't come back, but I'm not reassured. I start noticing things, shadows moving in the parking lot, a car idling too long outside my building. Am I paranoid? Or are they still out there? One thing's certain. They chose me for a reason, and until I know why, I'll never feel safe again. I can't shake the text. Nice car, Sophia. It's been 2 days and I'm a wreck, jumping at every shadow, triple-checking my locks. I haven't gone back to Joey's Burgers, but I can't stay holed up forever. My roommate, Kayla, notices I'm off. You look like you haven't slept, she says, her brow furrowed. I tell her everything, and her eyes widen. Sophia, that's not just creepy, that's dangerous. You need to do something. But what? The cops have nothing, and I'm starting to doubt myself. Was I overreacting, or are they still watching? I dig online, searching for similar stories. Reddit threads and local news sites mention women being followed, stared at in public places, sometimes getting texts from unknown numbers. One post chills me. A woman in a nearby town described 2 men, one older, one younger, watching her at a coffee shop. She got a text too. You shouldn't walk alone. No arrests, no leads. My stomach twists. Is this a pattern? Are these guys targeting women like me, young and alone, working late shifts? I call Officer Daniels, leaving a voicemail with the text screenshot. He calls back, sounding more serious. We're looking into it, but don't share your location online. And get a dash cam. A dash cam, great. Like that'll stop them if they come for me. I buy one anyway, installing it in my Honda, but it feels like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. Kayla insists I stay with her at her parents' place for a few days, but I refuse. I won't let these creeps chase me out of my life. At night, the fear creeps back. Scrolling through my phone when I find an old photo from the diner, taken a week ago for a coworker's birthday. In the background, barely noticeable, is the older man, his cap low, staring right at the camera. My breath catches. He was there before, blending in, watching me long before that night. How many times did I miss him? I send the photo to Daniels, my hands trembling. This isn't random. They've been planning this. Around midnight, I hear a noise outside. A soft tap like fingers on glass. My apartment's dark, but I creep to the window, peering through the blinds. Nothing. Just the empty lot, the street lights, flickering. But as I turn away, my phone buzzes again. Another text, same unknown number. Look behind you. I freeze, my heart hammering. I'm alone, but the air feels alive, like someone's breathing down my neck. Are they here? Or is this just a game to break me? The text, look behind you, burns into my brain. I don't turn around. I can't. My apartment's dark, the silence so thick it's choking. My phone still in my hand, the screen glowing like a beacon. I force myself to move, inching toward the light switch, my bare feet cold on the floor. The click of the switch feels deafening, but the room stays empty. No one's here, but that text, they know where I am. I'm terrified, convinced this is just the beginning. I block the number, but it's pointless. They're playing with me, and I'm losing. I call Kayla, whispering so low I barely hear myself. Can you come over, now? She's there in 20 minutes, her face pale as she locks the door behind her. Sophia, you're not staying here alone, she says, her voice firm. I don't argue. We pack a bag and I crash at her place, but sleep's a lost cause. Every creak, every shadow feels like them. The next morning I check my phone, another text, this time a photo. It's me, walking to my car after a shift last week, oblivious. My knees buckle. They've been this close for days, maybe weeks. Meet Officer Daniels at the station, showing him the texts, the photo. His jaw tightens. This is escalation, he says. We're treating it as stalking now. Stalking. The word feels too small for the terror gripping me. He assigns a patrol to my complex, but it's not enough. I quit Joey's Burgers, unable to face that counter again. Jess texts me saying the men haven't returned, but she found something. A napkin from their table scribbled with my name and blue Honda. My car. They knew it all along. I start piecing things together. The older man's laptop, the younger one's phone. They weren't just watching, they were documenting me. For what? A prank? Something darker? I join a local women's safety group online, sharing my story anonymously. A woman messages me privately, describing a similar encounter at a gas station. 2 men, same vibe, same texts. She moved away, too scared to stay. My fear turns to anger. How many others are out there, hunted like me? That night, at Kayla's, I hear it again. A tap on the window, sharper this time. Kayla grabs a bat, but when we check, there's nothing. Just a scratch on the glass, fresh and deliberate. My phone buzzes. You can't hide. I'm done running. I need answers. Who are they? And what do they want with me? I'm not their prey anymore. I'm fighting back. I'm done being afraid. Those texts, those scratches, they're not just threats. They're a challenge. I'm not their victim. With Kayla's help, I set a trap. We spread word through the women's group, leaking a fake plan. I'll be at a local coffee shop, alone tomorrow night. Daniels agrees to stake it out. Plain clothes. Cops blending into the crowd. I'm nervous, my hands sweaty as I grip the dash cam's memory card. Now recording everything. If they show, we'll have them. The coffee shop's busy. The hum of conversation a stark contrast to the diner's eerie silence. I sit by the window, a latte untouched, my eyes scanning every face. Kayla's at a corner table, pretending to read. Daniels is outside, his car unmarked. The clock ticks past 8 p.m., then 9. Nothing. I'm starting to think they won't come when I see him, the younger man, slipping through the door, his eyes locking onto me. My heart races, but I stay calm, signaling Daniels with a subtle nod. He doesn't approach, just orders a coffee and sits, staring like before. No older man, but I know he's close. I text Kayla. It's him. She nods, her bat hidden in her bag. The air feels electric, every second stretching into eternity. Then I see it. A reflection in the window, the older man outside watching from the shadows. They're here, both of them, thinking they've got me cornered. But they're wrong. Daniels moves in, his team closing the net. The younger man senses something, bolting for the door, but the cops grab him, cuffs snapping on. The older man tries to run, but he's caught in the alley, his laptop seized. I'm shaking, relief and rage flooding me. The cops find photos. On the laptop, dozens of women, including me, taken over months. Names, addresses, schedules. My name's there, circled in red. They were hunting, not just me, but countless others. Weeks later, the men are charged. Stalking, harassment, worse. The women's group connects more victims, building a case that'll keep them locked up. I'm safe, but the scars remain. I still feel uneasy, like their eyes are on me, even now. I keep the dash cam running, check my locks, and avoid late shifts. They're gone, but the fear they planted lingers. To anyone out there working alone, feeling watched, trust your gut. It might save your life. And if you've ever faced something like this, share your story below. You're not alone. It was the summer of 2008, and I'll never forget the night my friends and I made the worst mistake of our lives. I was 17, living in a small town in rural Kentucky, and we were at my friend Michael's old house, messing around with a glow-in-the-dark Ouija board. The moment we touched it, something felt wrong, like the air got heavier, like the house itself was warning us to stop. But we didn't. And then, in the dead of night, we heard it. A deafening crash downstairs, followed by scratches so deep, they tore through wood. What we unleashed that night still haunts me, and I'm telling you now, don't ever touch a Ouija board. This is my story, and it's real. My name's Rachel, and back then, I was just a high school kid who loved a good scare. Me, my friends Lisa, Tyler, and Nate, and Michael, whose family owned the house, were always looking for thrills. Michael's place was this creaky two-story relic, built in the 1800s, with peeling paint and windows that rattled in the wind. It always gave me the creeps. There were stories about it, whispers in town about weird noises, shadows in the windows. But that summer, with Michael's parents gone for the weekend, it felt like the perfect spot for a late-night adventure. We'd been joking about ghosts, swapping stories about the town's haunted spots, like the old mill where kids said they saw a lady in white. It was all fun and games until Nate pulled out the Ouija board from his backpack. Found it at a thrift store, he said, grinning. Let's see if it works. I laughed, but my stomach twisted. I'd heard Ouija boards were bad news. My grandma used to say they were the devil's telephone. I didn't believe in that stuff, not really, but I didn't want to look like a coward in front of my friends. So we grabbed some candles from the kitchen, turned off every light in the house, and climbed the creaky stairs to the upstairs closet. It was a tiny, dusty space, barely big enough for the five of us, but it felt private, like the perfect place to mess with something we didn't understand. We sat in a circle, the board glowing in the dark, and I felt a chill like the house was watching us. This is stupid, Lisa said, but she stayed. We all did. We lit the candles, placed our fingers on the planchette, and started asking questions, not knowing we were about to open a door we couldn't close. We crammed into that tiny closet, the air thick with the smell of dust and melted wax. The Ouija board sat between us, its neon letters glowing in the dark, and we lit a few candles, their flames dancing on the walls. We started asking if anyone was there who wanted to talk to us. I was nervous, my fingers trembling on the planchette, but I tried to play it cool. Lisa, the skeptic of the group, kept muttering about how it was all fake, just a toy from the 90s. Tyler was quiet, his eyes fixed on the board, like he was waiting for something. Nate, always the bold one, took charge. "Is there a spirit here?" he asked, his voice echoing in the small space. We waited, the silence so heavy it felt like it could crush us. Nothing happened at first, and I started to relax, thinking it was just a dumb game. Then, the planchette moved. It was slow, like someone was testing it, and it slid to YES. We all froze, staring at each other. We got a yes and looked at each other, our breaths shallow. "Who's doing that?" I whispered, but everyone shook their heads, their faces pale in the candlelight. Nate asked, "What's your name?" The planchette spelled out Mary. I didn't know any Mary, but the name hit me like a punch to the gut. The room felt colder, the candles flickering like they were about to go out. We asked more. "How old are you? Are you friendly?" And the answers came faster, too fast. Mary was 28. She wasn't friendly. She'd been here for a long time. The air got heavier, like someone was standing right behind me. I heard a faint scratching, like fingernails dragging across the closet door, and my heart started racing. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Lisa nodded, her face pale. The scratching got louder, rhythmic, like something was trying to claw its way in. It wasn't just the door, it was the walls, the ceiling, like we were surrounded. Nate, still acting tough, asked, "Are you in the house?" The planchette shot to NO. I wanted to feel relieved, but the scratching didn't stop. It was everywhere now, a chorus of claws. Tyler whispered, "We need to stop." But we couldn't. Not yet. Something was here and it was pulling us in deeper. I felt watched, like eyes were burning into me from the dark. I wanted to run, but my hands wouldn't leave the planchette. It was like the board wouldn't let us go. The scratching was driving me crazy, like it was inside my head. We were all paralyzed, staring at the closet door when a huge bang came from downstairs, shaking the whole house. I gasped, and Lisa let out a scream that made my ears ring. "What was that?" Tyler whispered, his voice breaking. Nate tried to shrug it off, saying, "Maybe something fell," but his eyes were wide with fear, and his hands were shaking. The cats we'd brought upstairs with us were hissing now, their backs arched, staring at the door. They hadn't moved an inch, and I knew it wasn't them causing the noise. Their eyes glowed in the candlelight, locked on something we couldn't see. I wanted to end it, to say goodbye and run, but the planchette moved again, spelling out YOUOPENEDTHEDOOR. My stomach dropped. The candles flared up, their flames shooting high, casting shadows that twisted like they were alive. The scratching turned into a frantic clawing, like something was desperate to break through the door, or break out. I felt a pressure, like someone was standing right behind me, breathing down my neck. It wasn't just a feeling. I swear I felt cold air on my skin. We shoved the planchette to goodbye and ran out of the closet, our hands shaking so bad we knocked over a candle, the wax splattering on the floor. We stumbled downstairs, the house groaning like it was alive, each step feeling like we were running from something that was right behind us. That's when we saw it. The pan we'd used for biscuits earlier, left on the stove, was now in the living room, smashed against the wall, dented like it had been thrown by a giant. The room was trashed, books scattered across the floor, a chair tipped over, a lamp lying on its side like a storm had ripped through while we were upstairs. We stood there, frozen, staring at the pan, its warped shape glinting in the moonlight, streaming through the window. The air felt thick, electric, like something was standing in the room with us, watching. My chest tightened and I could barely breathe. Then the scratching started again, louder from the closet upstairs. Every instinct screamed to get out, to run and never look back. But we had to know what we'd done. Against all reason, we ran, back up the stairs, our footsteps echoing in the silent house. We threw open the closet door and my heart stopped. There were deep claw marks on the closet door, fresh and jagged, like a bear had torn into it. They weren't there before. I'd have noticed. The marks were deep, too deep for a person, and they formed a shape like a twisted symbol or letter. I touched one and it felt cold, like ice, sending a shiver through my whole body. Whatever did this wasn't human. It was angry we'd tried to shut it out. We backed away from the closet, those claw marks seared into my brain. The house was quiet now, but it wasn't peaceful. It was like the calm before a storm, like something was waiting for us to slip up. We huddled in the living room, the wrecked pan still in the corner, a reminder of what we'd done. Lisa was shaking, tears streaming down her face. Tyler wouldn't stop pacing, muttering to himself. Nate was trying to act tough, saying it was just a prank, but his voice cracked and he couldn't look at the pan. I said, "We're never touching that board again," and everyone agreed, their voices hollow. That was the last time I ever played with a Ouija board. We stuffed it in a box and hid it in Michael's attic, swearing we'd never talk about that night again. We spent the rest of the night on the couch, lights on, jumping at every creak, waiting for dawn. But it wasn't over. I couldn't sleep, for days. Every creak, every shadow made me jump. I kept seeing those claw marks, hearing that scratching in my head. The next week I started asking around town about the house, trying to make sense of it. An old neighbor, Mr. Jenkins, sat me down at his kitchen table and told me about a woman named Mary, who lived there in the 1940s. She was a loner, rumored to mess with dark rituals, seances, blood offerings, things the town whispered about, but never proved. She died in that house, found with strange marks on her body, like she'd been clawed from the inside out. Some said she summoned something she couldn't control, something that stayed behind after she was gone. Mr. Jenkins looked me in the eye and said, "You kids stirred it up, didn't you? Burn sage and pray it leaves you alone." The house never felt the same after that night. Michael said things kept happening. Keys disappearing, doors creaking open at 3 a.m., faint scratches from the attic. I went back once a month later and heard it myself, scratching clear as day, like it was calling me back to the closet. Lisa stopped coming over, said she had nightmares about a woman with no face, her hands dripping with blood. Tyler swore. He saw a shadow in the hallway one night, tall and twisted, moving too fast to be human. It wasn't just us. Other kids in town started talking. A guy from school said he tried Ouija at his grandma's house and heard scratches too. I dug into it, checking old county records and paranormal forums online. I found stories from the 70s, the 90s, even the 2000s. People in our town who used Ouija boards and ended up with thrown objects, claw marks, or worse. One post from an anonymous user said the entity was tied to the land, a demon that latched onto anyone who opened a door with a Ouija board. "It doesn't leave," they wrote. "It waits for the next game." I'm 34 now, living halfway across the country, but that night still haunts me. I've never touched a Ouija board since, and I tell everyone I meet to stay away from them. I've read the science. Ouija boards are supposed to be just your subconscious moving the planchette, a trick of the mind. But I know what I felt, what I saw. Those claw marks weren't a trick. That pan didn't throw itself. Sometimes late at night I hear faint scratching in my apartment, like it's followed me all these years. Michael sold the house a few years back, but the new owners didn't stay long. Word around town is they found scratches on the walls too and moved out within a month. If you've ever played Ouija, did anything weird happen? Drop your story in the comments. I need to know I'm not alone. And if you're ever in rural Kentucky, avoid the old house on Oak Street. Something's still there, and it's waiting for someone to play again. The house on Maple Street was never quiet, not really. Even in the dead of night, it whispered. Creaks in the floorboards, a faint hum in the walls, like the building was breathing. I'd lived there for 3 years, ever since my family moved to this sleepy Ohio suburb in 2022, but I never got used to it. The place had a weight, a presence that pressed against you when you were alone. At 17, I told myself it was just an old house settling, but deep down, I knew better. Something was watching. That morning, I woke up earlier than usual, around 5:30 a.m., my head foggy from a dream I couldn't quite remember. Something about a woman with red hair, her voice soft but urgent, like she was calling me from the bottom of a well. I shook it off, grabbed my phone and sprawled across my bed, scrolling through YouTube to drown out the unease. The house was still, my parents asleep downstairs, the world outside cloaked in pre-dawn gray. But as I watched a random video about urban legends, the air shifted. A subtle chill, like someone had opened a window I knew was locked. I ignored it at first, my eyes glued to the screen. But then in the corner of my vision, I saw a woman walk through my doorway. My heart skipped, and I froze, convincing myself it was just my brain playing tricks. Shadows do that sometimes, right? But the feeling wouldn't shake. Slowly, I turned my head, and there she was. A woman standing just inside my room, her silhouette sharp against the dim light of the hall. She was tall, unnaturally so, her frame draped in a faded dress that looked like it belonged to another era. Her hair was a cascade of ginger curls, wild and untamed, framing a face that was both striking and wrong. Her eyes locked onto mine, staring emotionlessly, and her head tilted slightly, as if sizing me up. For a moment, time stopped. The experience was vivid, unnerving, like staring into a photograph that shouldn't exist. My phone slipped from my hand, clattering to the floor, but I couldn't move. Her gaze held me, cold and heavy, like a hand pressing against my chest. Then, in a blink, she was gone. The room was empty, the air still, but my pulse hammered in, my ears. I sat there paralyzed, the lingering dread wrapping around me like a second skin. I didn't sleep after that. How could I? The image of that woman, tall, ginger-haired, her gaze like a blade, burned into my mind. I stayed in bed, my eyes darting to the doorway every few seconds, half expecting her to reappear. When the sun finally crept through my window, I forced myself downstairs, my legs shaky. My parents were in the kitchen sipping coffee, oblivious to the nightmare I'd just lived. I tried to tell them, my voice cracking as I described the woman who'd walked through my doorway, but my dad just chuckled. "Too much screen time, Ethan," he said, ruffling my hair. My mom was kinder but skeptical, suggesting I was overtired. I wanted to scream. This wasn't a dream. It was real, and it was terrifying. I couldn't shake it. That afternoon, I called my best friend, Mia, who lived a few blocks away. She's the kind of person who believes in everything. Ghosts, aliens, even Bigfoot, so I knew she'd listen. When I told her about the woman, her voice dropped. "Ethan, that house, it's got a reputation." She promised to come over with her laptop and some old town records she'd found online. Mia's a history nerd, always digging into local legends, and I was desperate for answers. When she arrived, we set up in my room, the same spot where the dread still lingered. Mia pulled up a scanned article from the 1990s about our house. The previous owner, Margaret Callahan, had lived here for 24 years before dying at 67. The article included a grainy photo, and my stomach dropped. It was her, tall, with wild ginger curls, her face stern but unmistakable. "That's her," I whispered, my throat dry. Mia's eyes widened. "Ethan, she died in this house." The article didn't say how Margaret died, just that it was sudden. But Mia had more. She'd found forum posts from local history buffs claiming Margaret was a recluse, rumored to have dabbled in occult rituals. Some said she'd tried to contact her dead husband, a soldier killed in Vietnam, and opened a door she couldn't close. Others swore the house was cursed, built on land where a 19th century fire had wiped out a family. "People say they've seen things here," Mia said, her voice low. "Shadows, voices, and a woman with red hair." That night I started noticing things. My room felt colder, the air thick with a faint floral scent I couldn't place. My desk lamp flickered even though the bulb was new. At 3 a.m., I woke to a soft tapping, like fingers on glass, coming from my window. I checked, but there was nothing, just the empty street below. The next day, my notebook left open on my desk had a single word scrawled in jagged handwriting: stay. I hadn't written it. Mia, who'd crashed on my couch, swore she hadn't either. We dug deeper, visiting the town library where an elderly clerk, Mrs. Harrow, overheard us. "You're in the Callahan house, aren't you?" she asked, her eyes narrowing. She told us Margaret had been found in the attic, her body cold, but her face frozen, in a scream. "No one knows what she saw," Mrs. Harrow said, "but the house hasn't been right since. She warned us to leave, but I couldn't. This was my home, and I needed to know what Margaret wanted. The house wasn't just haunted, it was alive, and Margaret was its heartbeat." After Mia's visit, the signs grew bolder. My bedroom door, always locked at night, would creak open by morning, revealing nothing but the dark hallway. The floral scent turned sour, like rotting roses, and my mirrors fogged with faint handprints that vanished when I touched them. Mia, who'd started staying over more often, heard whispers in the attic, soft pleading in a woman's voice. "She's trying to tell us something," Mia said, her usual bravado fading. But I wasn't so sure. The dread that lingered after seeing that woman felt less like a message and more like a warning. We tried to contact Margaret. Mia, ever the believer, brought a Ouija board despite my protests. We set it up in my room, the air heavy with that sickly scent. "Margaret, you here?" Mia asked, her fingers trembling on the planchette. Nothing happened at first. Then the board jerked, spelling out WHY. My blood ran cold. "Why what?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The planchette moved again. STAY. The room plunged into darkness, my lamp shattering on the floor. Mia screamed and I grabbed her, pulling us out of the room. The door slammed shut behind us, locking itself. We didn't touch the Ouija board again, but the house didn't let us forget. My parents started noticing things. Dishes rearranged, their bedroom window open despite being nailed shut. My dad, the skeptic, blamed faulty wiring, but my mom's eyes told a different story. She'd grown up hearing tales of cursed houses, and now she was living in one. I found her one night staring at the attic door, her face pale. "I heard her, Ethan," she whispered. She was crying. I couldn't take it anymore. Armed with a flashlight and Mia's courage, I climbed. To the attic, the air thick with dust and that rotting rose smell. The space was cramped, filled with boxes and cobwebs, but one corner was clear. A small table with a single candle melted to a stub, and a photo of Margaret, her ginger curls unmistakable. Beside it was a journal, its pages yellowed but legible. I opened it, my hands shaking, and read her final entry. "It's awake. I tried to send it back, but it wants me. If you're reading this, it's too late." The candle flared, though no one lit it, and the attic door slammed shut. A voice, not Mia's, not my mom's, whispered my name, close enough to feel breath on my neck. I bolted, the journal clutched to my chest, and didn't stop until I was downstairs. Mia read the journal, her face ashen. Margaret had been experimenting with rituals, trying to reach her husband, but she'd summoned something else, a thing that fed on grief, that bound itself to the house. Her death wasn't natural. She'd fought it and lost. We tried to leave. My parents put the house on the market, but no one would buy it. Realtors reported feeling watched, hearing footsteps. One claimed to see a woman with ginger curls in the attic window, though the house was empty. We moved to a rental across town, but the house followed me. In my dreams, I'd see Margaret, Her face twisted, her voice pleading, "Stay." I'd wake to that floral scent, my door ajar. A faint handprint on my mirror. The house on Maple Street didn't just haunt us. It rewrote us. After finding Margaret's journal, I became obsessed, scouring every scrap of history I could find. The town's archives were a maze of half-truths, but I pieced together a story that made my skin crawl. In the 1880s, the land where our house stood was a burial ground, not for bodies, but for secrets. A cult had operated there, performing rituals to summon what they called the Keeper, a force they believed granted eternal life. But something went wrong. A fire consumed their compound, and the survivors fled, leaving behind a cursed patch of earth. When Margaret's house was built in the 1960s, it woke something up. Margaret wasn't just a victim. Her journal hinted at a pact. She'd offered herself to the Keeper to bring back her husband, but the entity betrayed her. Her rituals had strengthened it, binding her soul to the house. The more I learned, the worse it got. Neighbors started avoiding us, whispering about lights flickering in our empty house. A kid on my street swore he'd seen a woman with ginger curls in my window, though we'd moved out months ago. Even Mia, who'd faced the Ouija board with me, started pulling away. "I dream about her, Ethan," she confessed. "She's angry." The entity didn't stop at dreams. In our new rental, I'd find scratches on my walls, shallow but deliberate, like someone was testing their claws. My phone would play videos on its own, grainy footage of empty rooms, but always with that floral scent in the air. One night I woke to my mom screaming. She'd seen Margaret standing at the foot of her bed, her emotionless stare boring into her. "She didn't move," my mom sobbed. "She just watched." My dad, who'd laughed off my story, stopped sleeping. He'd sit up all night, a baseball bat across his lap, staring at the door. I tried to fight back. I contacted a medium, a woman named Lila, who specialized in hauntings. She took one look at Margaret's journal and shook her head. "This isn't Mises, or the eerie hum that seemed to pulse from the walls." My parents, once dismissive, began to feel it too. My mom would pause mid-sentence, her eyes darting to the hallway, while my dad started checking the locks obsessively, his skepticism crumbling under the weight of the house's presence. Mia. And I didn't stop digging. We found a retired priest, Father Grayson, who'd known Margaret in her final years. He met us at a diner, his hands trembling as he sipped his coffee. "She came to me once," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Said she'd seen something in her attic, something that wasn't human. I thought she was grieving, unhinged. But now," he trailed off, his eyes haunted. He gave us a warning. "Don't give it a name. Names give it power." Before leaving, he pressed a small crucifix into my hand, its edges worn but heavy with intent. The crucifix didn't help. The house grew bolder, its presence no longer confined to my room. My parents' wedding photo, hung in the living room, was found face down one morning, the glass cracked in a spiderweb pattern. My mom's jewelry box, locked in her dresser, was open on the kitchen table. A single ring, engraved with a rose, missing. The air grew heavier. The floral scent now, laced with something metallic like blood. Mia, who'd been my rock, started having nightmares, visions of Margaret, her ginger curls dripping with black ichor, her voice chanting, "Stay, stay, stay." Last week I went back. I don't know why. Maybe I needed closure. The house was abandoned, now its windows boarded, but the air still hummed with that unnerving presence. I slipped inside, my flashlight catching glints of dust and decay. In my old room I found something new, a Polaroid wedged under the floorboard. It showed me, asleep in bed, my phone glowing beside me. Standing over me was Margaret, her emotionless, Stare fixed on the camera. On the back, in her jagged script, "You're mine." I burned the photo, but it didn't matter. Last night, I woke to that scent again, stronger than ever. My door was open, and in the hallway I saw her, tall, ginger-haired, her head tilted, her eyes locked on mine. But this time she smiled. A slow, predatory grin that wasn't human. The house on Maple Street isn't just hers anymore. It's part of me, and I don't know how to escape. If you're listening, stay away from Maple Street. Don't buy that house. Don't even look at it, because once she sees you, she'll never stop. And somewhere in the dark, she's already waiting. Picture a house that hums with secrets, its walls whispering things you can't quite hear. In a quiet corner of Portland, Oregon, back in 2015, I moved into a place that seemed perfect, until I stepped into that bedroom. My name's Ethan, a college student chasing dreams and cheap rent. But what I found in that room wasn't just a place to sleep. It was a gateway to something I can't explain. This story will grip you, twist your gut, and leave you questioning what's real. Stick with me. It gets wild. I'd just moved in with my cousin Lily and her roommate Max into a creaky old house near campus. The rent was a steal, but the catch, I got the upstairs bedroom, the one nobody else wanted. From the first night, it felt wrong. The air was heavy, like someone was holding their breath. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling eyes on me from the dark. I laughed it off. New place, new nerves, right? But then the nightmares started. Not just bad dreams, but vivid, suffocating ones where I'd wake up frozen, unable to move. A weight pressing on my chest. The bedroom caused sleep paralysis in everyone who slept there. Lily tried it once and woke up screaming, saying something was sitting on her. Max lasted 2 nights before he bailed, muttering about bad vibes. I'm not superstitious, but I started to wonder, what was wrong with this room? The house itself was fine, cozy living room, sunny kitchen. But that bedroom was a black hole. I'd hear whispers at night, faint and garbled like a radio tuned to the wrong frequency. One time, I swore I saw a shadow flicker across the wall, too quick to be a trick of the light. I started avoiding the room, crashing on the couch instead. But curiosity got the better of me. Why was this happening? Was it just in my head, or was something in there with me? I decided to dig deeper, and what I found changed everything. This wasn't just a haunted room, it was a trap, and I was already caught. I was spooked, but I'm stubborn. I wasn't about to let a creepy bedroom run me out of my own house. So I set up a plan. Document everything. I bought a cheap voice recorder and a notebook, jotting down every weird moment. The first week I caught whispers on the recorder. Soft, unintelligible, like someone muttering just out of earshot. I played it for Lily, and her face went white. "That's not normal, Ethan," she said. "Get out of that room." But I didn't. Instead, I doubled down, sleeping in the bedroom every night, recorder running. The sleep paralysis got worse. I'd wake up unable to move, my body locked. Sometimes I'd see it, a shape in the corner, tall and featureless, its edges blurring into the dark. It never moved, just watched. But the air would turn icy, my breath fogging in the summer heat. I'd blink and it was gone, but the fear lingered like a bruise. Lily and Max started noticing things too. Dishes would rattle in the kitchen at night, even when we were all upstairs. Max swore he heard footsteps pacing outside the bedroom door. But when he checked, the hallway was empty. We tried to rationalize it, old house, bad wiring, maybe carbon monoxide. But the detectors were fine, and the nightmares kept coming. One night I woke up paralyzed again, and this time, the shape was closer, hovering at the foot of my bed. I could feel its gaze, heavy and wrong, like it was peeling back my thoughts. I started researching sleep paralysis, thinking it was all in my head. But the more I read, the less it added up. This wasn't just a medical thing. Something in that room was causing it. I found forums online, people describing similar experiences in cursed spaces. One guy mentioned a house in Portland, abandoned after tenants fled, complaining of, you guessed it, sleep paralysis. The address was too close to ours for comfort. Was our house connected? I had to know, even if it meant facing whatever was waiting in that room. I was in too deep to back out. The bedroom was a puzzle, and I was obsessed with solving it. I tracked down the old Portland house from the forum, and my stomach dropped. It was 3 blocks from us. Built in the 1920s, it had a dark history. A tenant in the 70s vanished, leaving behind notes about night terrors and something in the walls. Our house was newer, but the land, same block, same soil. I started to wonder if the ground itself was tainted. I convinced Lily to help me dig into the house's past. We hit the library, poring over dusty records. We found a name, Clara Vaughn, a woman who'd lived nearby in the 50s. She'd been a recluse, rumored to dabble in occult rituals. Her house burned down in 1960 and she disappeared. The fire's cause? Unknown. But the land where our house stood was part of her property. Was Clara's shadow still lingering, trapped in that bedroom? Back home, things got worse. The smoke and gas detectors were functional, ruling out leaks. But the paralysis kept hitting. One night, Max's friend, Tara, crashed in the room after a party. She woke up, screaming, saying a woman with hollow eyes stared at her, whispering nonsense. Tara never came back. I started sleeping with a flashlight, aiming it at the corner where the shape appeared. One night I caught it, a flicker of a face, pale and twisted, before it vanished. My recorder picked up a single word that night: stay. I was terrified but determined. I set up a camera hoping to catch the shape on video. The footage was grainy, but at 3:17 a.m., the screen glitched, and a shadow moved across the frame, too tall, too wrong to be human. Lily watched it and nearly cried. "We need help, Ethan," she said. I agreed, but first I had to face the room one last time. Whatever was there, it wanted something, and I was about to find out what. I couldn't sleep anymore. The bedroom was a cage, and I was its prey. Lily begged me to move out, but I felt like running would let it win. So I prepared for a showdown. I bought salt, sage, anything I'd read might ward off spirits. I even taped a cross to the wall, though I'm not religious. At midnight, I stood in the room, recorder on, flashlight in hand. "Clara, if that's you, show yourself," I said, my voice shaking. The air turned frigid, the light dimming like something was sucking it dry. My recorder crackled, spitting out static mixed with a low moan. Then the bed creaked as if someone sat down. I swung the flashlight. Nothing. But the weight was back, heavier than ever, pinning me to the floor. I was paralyzed again, my body a prisoner, as the shape materialized. It wasn't just a shadow now. It was her, Clara, or what was left of her. Her face was gaunt, eyes sunken, her mouth moving in silent words. She leaned closer and I smelled ash like a fire that never died. I don't know how, but I broke free, gasping, scrambling for the sage. I lit it, choking on the smoke, shouting, "Leave us alone!" The room shook, the walls groaning like they were alive. Clara's form flickered, her eyes flashing with rage or pain. Then she was gone and the air lightened. But my recorder caught something new. A scream, raw and desperate, not human. I played it back, and Lily refused to listen. "That's not Clara," she whispered. "That's something else." We called a priest the next day, someone Max knew from church. He walked into the bedroom and froze, his face pale. "This isn't a spirit," he said. "It's a wound, a tear in the world." He wouldn't explain, just blessed the room and told us to leave. We didn't argue, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Clara wasn't the enemy. She was a victim, trapped by something far worse. What had she done to open that wound? And was it still open? We packed our bags that week, but the bedroom wasn't done with us. The night before we left, I woke up to silence. Too quiet, like the world was holding its breath. My door was open, and the hallway light flickered. Against every instinct, I grabbed my flashlight and crept to the bedroom. The door was ajar, and inside the air was thick, almost liquid. I saw her, Clara, standing by the window, her back to me. But she wasn't alone. The corner pulsed with darkness, a void that seemed to breathe, its edges clawing at the walls. I froze as Clara turned, her eyes pleading. "Help," she whispered, her voice echoing in my skull. The void surged, swallowing her, and the room erupted. The windows rattled, the floor shook, and my flashlight died. I ran, but the door slammed shut, trapping me. The paralysis hit, my body collapsing as the void loomed over me. It wasn't just a shadow, it was alive, hungry, its presence crushing my thoughts. I saw flashes, Clara's rituals, a circle of candles, something breaking through. She'd opened a door, and it never closed. I don't know how I escaped. Maybe Clara fought it, maybe I got lucky. But I woke up in the hallway, Lily shaking me, screaming my name. We left that morning, never looking back. The house is still there, untouched. No one stays long, hungry for its next guest. I checked online years later. New tenants reported. The same paralysis, the same shadow. Whatever Clara unleashed, it's still there, waiting. Now I sleep with the lights on, haunted by that void. Was it a demon? A glitch in reality? I don't know, but I feel it sometimes, like it's watching from afar. Its shadow lingering in every dark corner of my mind. If you've ever felt trapped in a dream, unable to move, ask yourself, is it just your mind, or is something else? The Room? Stay tuned. Our next story might make you check your own bedroom twice, wondering if the dark hides something waiting to trap you. You've made it to the end, or at least this end. 10 stories, 10 glimpses into a world most people try to forget, but darkness never really goes away. It waits, in attics, in woods, in your mind, to be remembered. If your heart is still racing, you're not alone. Thousands have heard these stories and still feel the chill, and yet, there's more, much more. In the next episode, we'll go even deeper, to haunted hospitals, cursed roads, and voices that call out from mirrors. Are you ready to hear them? Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications, because the next time you're alone at night, you'll want to know what's waiting in the dark.